Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Flair coming at you guys with another video today, and today this is going to be your competitive Pokemon guide. And today I will be going over some of the internal values that a lot of people who play Pokemon don't even know about. But if you guys are interested in competitive battling, I will put a disclosure out there. I have not competitively battled myself, but I do understand all the internal mechanics, meaning I'm not the one to talk to about strategy or certain Pokemon EV spreads or anything like that. I can make recommendations, I understand it, but I'm not a pro, but I do know all the individual values, effort values, all that, so I'm going to be going through all that with you. So we are going to start off by looking at IVs. So essentially, IVs, or individual values, are considered the potential values of a Pokemon's stats. So with that being said, the better its IVs are, the higher its stats can become. So essentially, you want it to have the best IVs possible. So, as you guys can see here, this Shadow Knight has 1 IV perfect as best, and then attack is pretty good, defense is decent, pretty good. Now, these values range from 0 to 31. What that means is 0 being the lowest potential and 31 being the highest potential. So the more perfect IVs that you have is the better Pokemon can be. So essentially, the goal Pokemon would obviously be 6 perfect IVs or 6 31 IVs. Now the way to gain these would be breeding. Now that's a video for a different day, but essentially your goal would be to get 31 IVs. Now there is one thing that you can do to do this. You can breed, which would be basically taking a 6 perfect IV Ditto, which you would obtain in one of certain ways, or you can use battle caps, which is what I'm going to be talking about. So essentially, battle caps are basically a little. I'll have an image pop up on screen for you guys, but a battle cap basically perfects a stat. So battle caps essentially act the same way mints do, but they affect IVs and will perfect one IV, which would be a battle cap, or all the IVs, which is a gold battle cap. But it does not pass down the breeding process. So what that means is if you have a competitive Pokemon that you're making competitive, and it does not have perfect IVs, in fact you have no IVs good, it's garbage IVs, but the EV spreads and the IV spreads are good, you can do that. So you can essentially make those IVs perfect, so you don't have to worry about them. And it will affect that Pokemon, and if you breed it, they don't breed down, it's just something you give to that Pokemon. It's like if you give a Pokemon a stick. They can hold that stick, but they're not going to give birth to babies that have a stick. They can only hold that stick, if that makes sense. That probably sounds really stupid, but that's basically how it works. Another thing that we're going to be talking about is EVs. EVs, or effort values, are chosen values that you can gain from defeating certain Pokemon. For example, if you defeat a Rookidee, you gain 1 speed EV, or if you defeat a Squavy, you get 1 HP EV. Now, there is a total of 510 EVs. Now, essentially what these would be used for is you can only max out at a 252 EVs per stat. So, 4 EVs equals 1 stat point at level 100. And that also depends on IVs, on how high those extra stat points can go. But those IVs being perfect will max out how high those statistics will be. So let's take my Shadow here for example, because I know my Shadow is competitive. So let me just kind of see if I can explain this pretty well. So we're going to check his summary. So as you guys are going to see, his defense stat is off the charts. You will also notice that if I click X here, you'll see these two blue things with sparkling HP and sparkling defense. If something is sparkling like that, then it means that you've maxed out all the EVs that you can put into that stat. So this is a very tanky Corviknight with no special attack needed. So essentially his special attack, you'll notice in the statistics, is completely trash, because that stat means nothing to me. I won't be using any special attacks for him. But essentially, his attack needs to be high because I'm going to be using Brave Bird. Body Press uses his defense stat to deal damage. Defog is just another competitive move, and Roost heals him up. So essentially, the idea with this is these EVs max out those stats a lot more, because as you can see, HP and defense are high. Well, the stats for HP at level 85 is 341 and defense is 286, which if I did not have those EVs would be significantly lower. They would be either 30 or up to like, it's like 40 or 50 lower. Like it's huge. It's a huge difference whether you've EV trained or not. So a lot of times you get the Pokemon and it comes when the Pokemon is generated in the world, either through an egg or an encounter. Next thing we're going to be talking about is natures. Natures essentially take any two stats and decrease one stat by 10%, which is denoted in blue. As you can see with special attack, that is blue, so that means that is being decreased by 10%. And then it increases another stat denoted in red, which as you can see my defense stat, which would increase that stat by 10%. So essentially, you can have a neutral nature, which would mean it doesn't do anything to any of the stats, it's just all neutral. Or if you're not using a stat, like for instance on this Corviknight, I'm not using my special attack stat. So I'm going to remove 10% off that special attack since we're not using it anyway, and I'm going to increase my physical defense so that I can take a bigger beating when a Pokemon is trying to deal some massive attack damage. So that's essentially what that's used for. Now, as I was talking about with Battle Caps fixing IVs, there's also something to fix the natures, because as you can see, this is a naive nature, but as you can see, I don't know if you guys know, naive is not these two natures. Special attack and defense, those are not naive nature. This is actually acting as an impish nature, which is up defense, lower special attack. But mints are essentially, on the surface, effectively changing a Pokemon's nature without disturbing the original nature it was given. Meaning this Pokemon in nature, in the game, is still a naive nature. So let me walk over to this lady on this other side of the counter. So over here, this lady sells mints. Now, you have adamant mints, naughty mints, all this stuff. Well, this impish mint, as you guys can see right here, it says when a Pokemon smells this mint, its defense will grow more easily, but its special attack will grow more slowly. So that's basically denoting that, once again, that's the increase and decrease. So using those mints, it's a cosmetic change, but it will not affect it when you pass it down. Meaning, if a Pokemon is generated with a rash nature, for instance, and you give it an impish mint, you're essentially only changing that Pokemon's stats, not its inbred nature. So when it breeds, it will only pass down its inbred nature, or its original nature that it was generated within the game. That is essentially how mints are broken down. So far we've gone over IVs, we've gone over EVs, we've gone over natures and mints, and then we've gone over Battle Caps. Another thing that we probably should go over is egg moves. Now, egg moves are a bit of a different thing. Egg moves are essentially something that only baby Pokemon can learn, and it's essentially when you're breeding Pokemon, they can learn certain moves that they shouldn't be able to learn that early, or they can learn through certain species. So you can have Pokemon that are in different egg groups get together and they'll pass down different egg moves to each other. Or you can catch a Brilliant Pokemon, which if you guys saw my Brilliant Pokemon video, I kind of explained how that works and how they can have egg moves and more good IVs and all that stuff. But essentially, you take two Pokemon that are within the same egg group. One might have a move that's special, that's a really good move, and it'll get passed down. And then that move you can also transfer to a different parent or to your competitive Pokemon through breeding. And this Pokemon will essentially have it, just like my Corviknight has Roost and Defog, which are both egg move only moves. They're not, I can't teach it to it, I can't, it doesn't learn it by level up, it can only learn it through the egg moves. So egg moves are very, very important when it comes to competitive, because there's a lot of competitive moves that are egg moves, and they are made for that reason, because they are not easy to obtain, but if you can manage to obtain them, it makes your Pokemon so much better. If this Corviknight could not learn Roost, he would not be as good, because you cannot use items in competitive battling, but if I can use this move, it's gonna heal a lot of its HP, and it can heal by up to half. So if they cannot one-shot this thing, they are going to have a serious issue. So all the Haxorus and all the Gyarados that are going to be dealing massive attack, or Aegislash with massive attack, this is just going to take a brutal beating, and it's just going to take it. And then the second they take it, he's going to heal it all the way back up again. So that is essentially my guide on how I would kind of explain this stuff. If you guys do have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments below, as I do read all the comments, and I do appreciate anybody who wants to comment. Obviously, my Twitter is in the description if you guys want to go follow me and DM me through that, or obviously you can leave a comment. Twitter, I am a little bit slower at responding to, but YouTube, I try to pay attention to. I know that I had 30 or 40 comments on my last video, and I was trying to respond to as many people, and I think I've helped a lot of people. So I'm glad that you guys talked to me, and I do appreciate helping all you guys. But if you guys did enjoy the video, I hope you all will leave a like. And if you guys do enjoy the content, as always, make sure to subscribe. And as always, guys, I hope you all have a fantastic day, guys. Peace.